שם באפר ותכלת חלקת שלום ישנה. נומי פרח, נומי ילדה קטנה, את החיים לקחו לך, מלחמות קדושות, מלאכים בכו לך, בעיניים יבשות. את חיוכך תינוקת קברו באדמה, איך צומח שקט מתוך המהומה. מי שלחץ על הדק דם בליבו מחתים, במלחמות לצדק גם ילדים מתים. את החיים לקחו לך, מלחמות קדושות, מלאכים בכו לך, בעיניים יבשות. שם באפר ותכלת חלקת שלום ישנה. נומי פרח, נומי ילדה קטנה, את החיים לקחו לך, מלחמות קדושות, מלאכים בכו לך, בעיניים יבשות. את החיים לקחו לך, מלחמות קדושות, מלאכים בכו לך, בעיניים יבשות. וחלומך ברוח חרוז למנגינה. נומי פרח, נומי ילדה קטנה.
What a beautiful way to start and set the tone for our afternoon. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our community Yom HaShoah commemoration. I'm Tali Dippold, and I'm the director of the Holocaust Memorial Resource Education Center. I'd like to welcome our community partners. They're all listed in your program. Many came together for this program, community members, Holocaust survivors and liberators and their descendants, educators, students, and elected officials present. Can the elected officials present or representatives who are here please take a moment to stand? We'd like to thank you for being here. Today marks the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which took place from April 19th to May 16th, 1943, exactly 81 years ago. The uprising is the most recognized of all armed resistance, as the small group of Jewish fighters were able to hold off the larger and more efficient German army for an entire month. This commemoration is different from our past commemorations. Today we gather to remember the loss of 6 million Jews and other victims during the Holocaust and to acknowledge the post-October 7th reality. On October 7th, our world was forever changed when Israel experienced the deadliest day since the Holocaust. We are living through the aftermath of this attack. We lost 1,200 innocent civilians, and 250 people were abducted, and 133 precious people are still being held hostage. And there is an unprecedented rise in anti-Semitism. We've seen pro-Palestinian protests turn violent, endangering our students and robbing them of their education. The global Jewish community is actively mourning and grieving as the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas is responsible for continued loss of innocent civilians. We would now like to take 2 moments of silent reflection. We ask those who would like to please stand. Thank you. For those who are not familiar, that is the siren that sounds throughout the entire state of Israel on this day of commemoration, and individuals stop everything they're doing, no matter where they are, driving, in the street, in schools, and take the time to really commemorate those lost. As we commemorate the legacy of the Holocaust, the goal is to be inspired to create positive change in our world today. And more than ever, our world is in dire need of such change. Holocaust survivors, many who are here with us, and their descendants passionately speak of their hope for a world that is free from radical intolerance, bigotry, and hatred. I would like to honor the survivors that are here with us today. If you are a survivor or liberator, can you please either stand or raise your hand? If you are a child, grandchild, or great-grandchild of a survivor or liberator, can you please stand or raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you. We're going to begin our commemoration today with a candle lighting. Today is a day for remembering the destruction. We'll begin by lighting candles to honor the devastating loss. The first candle is to commemorate the 6 million Jews who perished. Today is a day for celebrating heroism and strength of those who were persecuted and the determination of the survivors. We light the second candle to honor the survivors. Today is a day for reflecting on heroism and strength. We celebrate the determination of the liberators with the third candle. Today is a day for honoring those who stood upright while others were bending to unmoral will. The fourth candle is in honor of the righteous among the nations, the upstanders, who risked and even gave their lives to help their fellow human beings. Today is a day for learning how to support each other, acknowledging the wrongs that have been done, and uniting us as one community. And today is a day of responsibility. The Jewish commandment, zechor, which means to remember in Hebrew, is an active term. Our remembering and witnessing are meant to move us to do everything in our power to take a stand against hate in all its forms, especially during this rising time of anti-Semitism. This sixth candle is in honor of each one of you, a community dedicated to learning from the heroism and determination and to witness by resolving to combat hate. May we use the sacred responsibility bestowed upon us as a community to create meaningful change for the cause of peace in our present day. Thank you all. We welcome Greg Dawson, who will share his mother's inspiring story. Greg wrote the book, Hiding in the Spotlight, his mother's miraculous story of her escape from Ukraine during the Holocaust. Greg has been a journalist for over 50 years, working at 5 newspapers, including the Boston Herald and the Orlando Sentinel. I just want to take a moment to thank all of the organizations and individuals who came together to create this remarkable commemoration. Special thank you to Larry Epstein and the Launch Group team, and to my dedicated, incredible team, without which this commemoration would not have been possible. Now we're going to allow us to hear and honor the legacy of the victims, survivors, and liberators. We ask that you silence your cell phones and also that you do not clap during the remainder ceremony.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful way to begin the presentation. Welcome, everyone. Tally, thank you so much for your remarks illuminating the unique context in which we celebrate Yom HaShoah today. It's indeed a high honor to be asked to add my mother's voice to the universal chorus of survivors, their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, who together represent an ongoing victory of good over the greatest evil. My mother Jana's story is about the power of music, which the 17th century playwright William Congreve wrote, has charms to soothe a savage breast, to soften rocks, to bend a knotted oak. Alas, it didn't have the power to stop Hitler from murdering 8 million Jews, but it did keep him from adding 2 more to the list, my mother and her sister Frina. They grew up in eastern Ukraine, the part Americans have come to know so well, tragically, from TV coverage of Putin's savage war. Both were piano prodigies, learning to play on a Bechstein upright. Their father, Dmitri, a candy maker and amateur violinist, ordered from Germany. Music took the place of religion in this proudly Jewish home. Dmitri worshiped Paganini, the Italian violin virtuoso. Almost every night, little Jana would fall asleep in their tiny living room to a lullaby of Rossini and Strauss, Bizet, and Tchaikovsky, as Dmitri and his good friend Nikolai on piano played deep into the night, their sheet music illuminated by kerosene lamps. My mother said, "I enjoy the music so much, they wouldn't dare to put me to bed anywhere but the living room." The decision was made to put a bed in the living room for me. Every night was a celebration of music. Not yet 4 years old, Jana would rise early and sneak out, often barefoot and half-dressed, to explore her seaside town. She was drawn to funeral processions, horse-drawn carriages bearing a coffin, Orthodox priests in golden robes, swinging lanterns, a small band playing a funeral march. She said, "It broke my heart every time. I would get the biggest tears and walk with the family, crying for the relatives. I was absolutely obliged to go." Jana began lessons at 5 and played her first public performance on the radio at 6. When she was 8 and her sister Frina, 6, both were given scholarships to the prestigious Music Conservatory in Kharkiv, where they studied with Regina Horowitz, sister of Vladimir Horowitz, already famous in America. It was an idyllic existence. Then war shattered their world. In 1941, when the Nazis were rolling across Ukraine on the way to Stalingrad, and there were rumors they were slaughtering tens of thousands of Jews at places like Babi Yar, Dmitri refused to believe it. He could not believe that the culture of Brahms, Beethoven, and Bach was capable of such things. So they stayed in Kharkiv, ignoring the pleas from extended family to flee with them east ahead of the advancing German army and the mobile killing squads called Einsatzgruppen. Once in Kharkiv, the Germans went searching for Jews and riches. My mother remembers the night a Nazi officer came to the door. She told me, we had nothing except for the piano, which he could not take by himself, and my father's violin. He spotted the violin, and we caught our breath. We begged for him not to take it. In our horror, he opened the case and snatched it. It was a knife to our hearts. The violin was like a member of the family. It was played and heard every day, and it was happy. He took it in the same spirit they took gold from the fillings of dead Jews. But he could not take the vibrations that came from our existence. The vibrations would remain even without the body. The Nazis rounded up the Jews, some 16,000, and marched them in bitter cold and snow 10 miles to a killing field outside the city where they were shot and buried in open pits. Their parents and paternal grandparents perished, but the girls miraculously escaped. Dmitri bribed a guard with his gold watch to look the other way as Jana bolted out of line and into the woods. Frina never told anyone but her husband how she escaped. The only item my mother salvaged from her lost world was the sheet music for her beloved from her beloved Fantasy Impromptu by Chopin, which the young man played so beautifully just now. That sheet music, remarkably preserved over 5 years in a war zone, is now our most treasured keepsake. So Jana, 14, and Frina, 12, suddenly found themselves orphans in a war zone. It was music that enabled them to survive the next 5 years till the end of the war. They assumed non-Jewish identities changing their names and their life stories. By sheer fate, they had become captive entertainers for the Nazis, who did not know they were Jewish. Maybe a few suspected, but they decided that these particular Jews were more valuable to them alive than dead. In my book, I described a solo performance my mother gave for hundreds of German soldiers in an occupied city in central Ukraine. The house lights dimmed, the spotlight shone on the grand piano at the center of the stage. Jana entered, bowed to the audience, and settled herself at the piano. She looked down for a moment, hands in her lap. Could she summon the passion that Chopin's piece demanded for this audience? Was it not a betrayal of her parents and grandparents? The soldiers listened in amazement to the big sound coming from the slender figure on stage. Jana's hands rising and falling in a blur, attacking and then caressing the keys. She spread her arms wide to strike the climactic notes at the ends of the keyboard. The hall erupted in thunderous applause, and the soldiers on their feet whistling and shouting, "Bravo, bravo." Sometimes the sisters were summoned to the private quarters of field generals and Gestapo to dine with them, and then afterwards perform Chopin, Schubert, Beethoven, Brahms. My mother said these were very serious people, a wonderful audience. They kept saying, "Noch einmal," once more, over and over. The next day, these serious people went back to exterminating Jews. I asked my mother how she could play for such monsters who had murdered her family. She said, "I was not playing for them. I was playing for my mother and for my father, and for the music and for the composers. My childhood friend, Ted Deppy, now a celebrated poet, wrote a poem about taking lessons from my mother when he was young. The title is School of Music. My first lesson, you won't even let me touch the keyboard. You have me drum my fingers against the table to work the stone from my wrists. We all start with stone. For you, it was the laughter of Germans as the rabbi danced. When the rope stopped, the red bullwhips cracked, and the rabbi danced again, briefly resurrected in the sleet-backed wind of your childhood. Or say that the stone is the wind, and the wind is the cries of children loaded in open trucks. Even today, you hate the wind. You're so still. Sit such a long time preparing to play. Your gold watch waits silent as a heron over the white keys. There are days we don't give names to, memories more vivid than the pictures they took away when the snow was new. You were one of 16,000 marched out of Kharkov into the storm. You wear the watch now to remind you of the one your father gave a guard, barter for your life. Almost imperceptibly, it rises over the winter fields, and the music starts, a tough, terse piece that counts our losses. We lose everything. Your fingers strike out over unmarked graves, playing for the demanding ears of your father, music that is, first of all, survival. After the war ended in May 1945, the sisters wound up in a displaced persons camp near Munich. The head of the camp was Larry Dawson, a U.S. Army lieutenant and music lover from Virginia. One day, Dawson discovered the sisters playing an old piano they found in the camp and was enchanted. He made it his mission to get them to America and win scholarships at the Juilliard. In a letter to his brother David, a violist who had studied at Juilliard and would become Jana's husband and my father, Larry wrote, "They are the two most lovable kids any of us here have ever known. We have never seen any other displaced persons who have been through what they have and who retain a pure, fresh, uncynical attitude toward and faith in life. They have seen the filthiest and worst things in Europe and come through it pure as gold. I hope you will get to know them. Then you will realize why 6 of us moved heaven and earth to get them to America." Before leaving in May 1946 on the first ship of Holocaust survivors to come to America, the sisters played a concert for 1,200 survivors of Dachau, Beethoven, Chopin, Rachmaninoff, Liszt. I wrote, "The music washed over the grateful listeners like a soft, restorative rain falling on desert flowers. As the audience showered the girls with applause, Jana bowed and decided that it was, technically, the worst she had ever played. It didn't matter. She said, the concert had done what we wanted, to help lift humanity to goodness again, to fill the survivors of torture with signs of life and peace without fear. Realizing the concert was a celebration kept me going as I played, tied to the listeners' hearts. I was there with them, alive, their ears connected with mine, able to hear Beethoven speak. The horror created by Hitler was defeated. Beethoven, Mendelssohn, Brahms, Liszt, and Schubert were all there to celebrate our freedom. That's the way they wanted Germany and the world to be. Our mother, our father, our grandfather, and our grandmother were there too. They came alive to listen and to celebrate with us. I knew nothing of my mother's story until I was nearly 30. As a child, I lay in bed and was lulled to sleep by Chopin, Brahms, or Dvorak, wafting up from the living room where my mother practiced. She divulged nothing in words. Like the faded Chopin sheet music, my childhood memory bears an indelible imprint. And I've come to understand that during all those years when my mother chose not to speak of her experience, she was not truly silent. She was speaking to me as I lay in the dark in a voice that was powerfully, ferociously, defiantly alive. She never would have told her story for a book if not for an assignment our daughter Amy received from a history teacher at Glen Ridge Middle School. Mr. Hartle asked students to speak to a grandparent about what their life was like at the same age. Amy chose Grandma Z, as she called her. We silently wished Amy luck, knowing my mother had steadfastly refused to talk about her experience. We were gobsmacked when Grandma Z responded to Amy's request with a 4-page handwritten letter describing, for the first time, in compelling, painful, emotional detail, her story of survival. It was really a testament to the unique bond between grandparent and grandchild. My mother finally grasped the importance of not only Amy knowing this history, but her classmates as well, and all those who would follow them. Only then did she agree to interviews that led to my writing of Hiding in the Spotlight and a subsequent book, Alias Anna, intended for middle school readers. After my mother's death last year at age 95, Amy had Grandma Z's piano shipped from Atlanta to their home in Falls Church, Virginia. Her daughter Felicity, now 4, began lessons 2 months ago on her great-grandmother's piano. Grandma Z didn't get to see Amy lay hands on the keyboard for the first time, but I'd like to believe that in that moment she came alive to listen and to celebrate with us. All survivors' lives honor those who perished. May their memories be a blessing. Thank you very much.
One of the former members of our Shevet and former student at the JAO, Yael Ivan, wrote a verse, Flying. This was a heartfelt poem that talks about the importance of hope. Flying received first place in elementary poetry at the Holocaust Memorial and Education Center in Florida.
This is the poem Flying by Yael Ivan. Every day inside here is like a year spent with death. This cage that emits all freedom, liberty, love, imprisons me within its gloom. Happiness has become a fantasy. Kings and queens and love and peace have become a fairy tale. Why can't I live in that fairy tale? Are there even any happily ever afters left? Is there anything left? Anyone? Yes. The Germans laugh at our weakness, cackle at our despair, grin at our hunger, and chortle at our continuous misery. I contain not enough strength to pick a pen off this accursed ground, yet I utter this in my soul. I may never feel mother's warm hugs, never hear father's hearty laugh, yet I endure it all.
I am like a caged bird. Let me fly. I need to fly. Let me be free. I cannot survive. No one can. I need to spread my wings. When the time comes, I will fly. Fly for mother, fly for father. Fly for hope, fly for all that is left. Fly for this family separated, fly for my country. Fly for the pain, fly for the attempts to fix the world. Fly for the tears I have shed. Fly for the world, fly.
Elie Wiesel said in his Nobel Prize speech, "I remember. It happened yesterday or an eternity ago. A young Jewish boy discovered the kingdom of night. I remember his bewilderment. I remember his anguish. It all happened so fast. The ghetto, the deportation, the sealed cattle car, the fiery altar upon which the history of our people and the future of mankind were meant to be sacrificed."
I remember he asked his father, "Can this be true? This is the 20th century, not the Middle Ages. Who would allow such crimes to be committed? How could the world remain silent?" And now the boy is turning to me. "Tell me," he asks, "what have you done with my future? What have you done with your life?" And I tell him that I have tried.
I have tried to keep memories alive, that I have tried to fight those who would forget. Because if we forget, we are guilty, we are accomplices. We cannot prevent their death the first time, but if we forget them, they will be killed a second time, and this time it will be our responsibility.
Hello, I'm Leanne Kurlancic, and this is Ella Ravid. And we are a part of the leading team of the Israeli Scouts, an Israeli youth organization here in Orlando. Today, as members of this Jewish community who are committed to Holocaust remembrance and education, we cannot continue this ceremony without acknowledging the profound tragedies that have marked our collective history. Children, adults, the elderly, generations of entire families were wiped off the face of the earth, not just in the distant past, but in living memory. Today, anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, and distortion threaten Jewish communities around the world. Communities that are long persecuted, often exiled, and still threatened today. It adds insult to the collective trauma of those who survived by questioning their integrity and the validity of their lived experiences. But denial, distortion, or ignorance does not just affect the communities targeted by that action. It threatens every society built on truth, equality, and justice. It makes us question fact until fact loses all meaning, and it leaves us vulnerable to history repeating itself.
That's why, on Holocaust Remembrance Day, we must remember not just those who survived, fought, and perished, but also how these horrific crimes came to pass. On this day, we reaffirm our commitment to unity and the resolute declaration to challenge anti-Semitism as well as all forms of prejudice and bigotry. We stand firm against those who would deny or remain indifferent to the atrocities endured by countless innocents. We pledge to keep their stories alive, to honor their memories, and to ensure that such cruelty is never forgotten or repeated. Our collective memory and our shared humanity compel us to act and teach future generations the importance of standing together against the forces of division and hatred. We will continue to pray for our people.
I invite those who are able to do so to please rise for Il Maleh Rachamim, the traditional memorial prayer. Il Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bamromi, Ametzeh Menucha Nechona al Kanfei Ashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Utehorim, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמות כל אחינו בני ישראל חללי השואה אנשים, נשים וטף שנטבחו ושנחנקו ושנשרפו ושנהרגו בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם. אנא בעל הרחמים אסתירם בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני ונחלתם ויזכור לנו עקדתם ותעמוד לנו ולכל ישראל זכותם וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם ונאמר Amen. Ask you also to join me in Kaddish Yatom, in the mourner's Kaddish, for all those who have perished and fallen. Yitkadal v'yitkadash me'raba be'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei techol beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'alam lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. You may be seated.
My name is Stephen Pointer. I'm the Director of Education here at the Holocaust Center, and every year, for the past few years, we have been holding a White Rose Essay Contest, which is named for the student resistance group that spoke out by writing leaflets and lost their lives for speaking out against the Nazi regime. This year, our contest prompt was focusing on acts of resistance during the Holocaust, and we asked students to write a fairly lengthy essay, and we've received over 320 essays. It's actually really powerful because students don't like to write a lot. So I was really quite excited to see such a big turnout. I believe most of these students and their teachers are with us today, so I'm hoping that Tally can come up to the front as I hand her their certificates. But our grand prize is actually $1,000. We have a benefactor who actually makes sure that we're able to award these students for their incredible work and their incredible efforts. So also, if we could, we're going to hold off on applause just out of respect for the event. And if you'd like to congratulate the students after, you're more than welcome to. Our fourth place winner is Miss Mally Martinez. If you could please come up with your teacher if you're here with us today. And here, what we'll do if you'd like to stay up front up here, what we'll do is take pictures when everyone's up here. And this, let me acknowledge the teachers who actually work really hard with their students to ensure that all these essays are worked on and submitted, because each student must have a sponsor to work with. Our third place is Haley Hopkins. Is Haley with us today? If you could. Second place, Alexandra Kennedy. And our first place essay winner is Gilad Ravid. So in our quietest way possible, show our appreciation for all of your wonderful work and your efforts and everything that you did, because a lot of work, we will actually have all these essays, they will be posted on our website if you'd like to see some of the incredible work that these students have given to us. But it's shown depth, insight, reflection, and a true understanding of why we need to remember the Holocaust. Thank you all very much for your hard work, and thank you to all the wonderful teachers who have supported you in this effort.
נפש יהודי הומייה ולפתי מזרח קדימה עין לציון סופיה עולב דה תקוותנו התקווה בת שנות 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים להיות עם חופשי בארצנו ארץ ציון וירושלים.
Hi, my name is Edith Lotringer. I'm the Regional Director of the Israeli American Council here in Central Florida. Thank you all very much for being here this afternoon. Right after the ceremony, we will march in remembrance of the 6 million victims of the Holocaust and in solidarity for the liberation of the 133 hostages. So you are more than welcome to join us. We will walk to Lake Lily. We have a security with us, and we're going to leave from the lobby. It's a 20 minutes walk, and we appreciate that, and thank you so much.
Well, it looks like we've finished a little early, which is unusual. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for being so attentive, and thank you for your efforts for remembrance today, and for all the work from the Scouts, our partners, from everyone at the Holocaust Center, and hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day today. Thank you.